Welcome, everyone. I'm Brainerd Carey. I'm an author of several books that help artists to develop their careers. And today I want to talk a little bit about the importance of the community of artists. We talk a lot about art and how to get it out there into the world. But one thing that's really important is the community of artists, not only for support, but also for the conversation that it brings. There's a lot of colleges now that talk about the market versus the conversation. What does it mean to be part of the conversation as an artist? And in many ways, that means visibility and that your ideas are being talked about or discussed. So today, I want to just talk a little bit about what it means to have a community as an artist, to create one, to find one, be involved in one. And essentially, it's about, of course, support, right? We all are artists working in different studios, different environments. It's often a lonely practice. We're alone doing this. Even artists who are working collaboratively are very often not working collaboratively all the time. It's a minority of the time that they're actually working with other people. So to begin with, to find a community, you can either build one, right? You can either get together friends and have a weekly crit, or meet in a cafe and discuss your ideas, or even rotate studios, right? One week it's in your studio, if you have a studio where you could invite 3 people over that are other artists, right? And they talk about your art then, and you all discuss other ideas that are happening. And then the next week or the next 2 weeks, it's in another artist studio, and you rotate between studios. You could do this locally, and you'd have the beginning of a community there, some feedback, some support, some sense of belonging, some sense of also giving, because as exciting as it is to get feedback on your work, it's also very exciting for you to give feedback to other artists on their work, right? It's part of the exchange. And then there's another way of entering into a community of artists, and this could be national or international, no matter where you are in the world. And that's by working with local nonprofits. So wherever you are, whether it's in the United States, Canada, Mexico, Europe, Asia, Middle East, there's a pretty easy way to begin to get involved with a community. And the way to get involved with that community is to look for local nonprofits. And you find these nonprofits through your Ministry of Culture, through your State Council on the Arts, if you're in the United States or in Canada. And these nonprofits are not galleries that sell work, they're educational institutions. A museum is a nonprofit. But the kind I'm talking about are often alternative spaces. They're places where artists can exhibit work. You have to propose to get in there. And they're all over the place, right? They're all over the US, they're all over Europe. They're just all over the world. And I'm not talking about just the big ones, like biennials are that, and it's great to get involved in a biennial. But I'm talking about ones that are local to you, that you can drive to or access fairly easily. If you're in a big city, this will be easy for you. If you're not in a big city, then you may have to drive to it, but there will be something local for you. And at these nonprofits, what you'll find is that there's a board of directors, that they're often soliciting calls for artists. They're not asking artists to pay anything. In almost all cases, they're not asking artists to pay anything. That's not how they make their money. They make their money by raising money, by grants that they're getting from the government or other places. And when you join some of these places, when you join a local council on the arts that has a number of activities, and a council on the arts, just to be clear, in the United States, there's a state council on the arts, and very often a local council on the arts. And that council on the arts may have activities of their own, but more than likely, they'll have a list of all the organizations that are local to you, to your town or to your state, that are involved in some kind of artistic activity. And usually it's about exhibitions, performances, installations. It's about the conversation. The difference between nonprofits and galleries is galleries are about making money and selling. They have to pay their rent. Nonprofits are not about selling. They're about the conversation of art. They're about the educational value of art and being able to support artists and have artists reach out to the community through exhibitions that are valuable to the community in terms of education. So what I would say is, another way, besides the example that I gave at the beginning of this, of joining, creating your own group, if you look to nonprofits that are local or statewide, and in Europe, this is in your Ministry of Culture, you'll see a whole list of them. Go there, join them. And even if you make a proposal and you're not accepted to one of these non-profit exhibitions, go to it anyway. Go to the one that has the exhibit where you didn't get accepted. And then you'll find out in most of these places, there are panels, there are discussions, there are readings of poetry, different events. Go to all of those. That's your community, that's your tribe. That's where everything is taking place. That's about the conversation that's local to you and probably has national reverberations, right? Right now in a lot of the arts, there's a kind of resistance movement almost. Whether people are activists or not, we're all operating under a variety of governments that tend to be moving to the right. And artists are reacting in either subtle or not so subtle ways. And it also creates a kind of urgency for the importance of art in terms of advocating for individual freedoms, group freedoms, creative freedom. So whether, I'm not saying it has to be about politics or even social issues, but often it is. The conversation around art often is. But of course, it's also about formal issues, how the art's being made, how it's being shared, how well it's articulating what it is that you want to say. So what I want to say today in this brief video is that I think it's very important to have a community to support you and also to be part of a conversation about what's going on with the art world, with other artists. And the art world is as small or as large as you want it to be. But my feeling is that rather than generalizing about the art world, or whether it's this or that, the art world is the small group of friends around you. It's the small group at that local or national nonprofit that's within driving distance from you, or walking distance, or public transportation. Because in that nonprofit, when you go to their lectures, their events, their talks, afterwards you can meet other people, and that is where either the conversation will happen right then among other people, and it'll be stimulated by the lecture you just heard, the show you just went to, the presentation you just heard, or the installation you just saw, or some other kind of symposium that's there. Nonprofits, in my mind, are the key to unlocking access to the global art world. It's where the conversation takes place. There's no question that galleries are important, museums are important, all kinds of other exhibition opportunities that are commercial are important. But for the conversation in the art world, for feeling included, supported, and aware of what's going on, so that you can support other artists and vice versa, your local nonprofits are a great place to start. I hope that's helpful. Of course, I also have an online school for artists called praxiscenterforaesthetics.com. There'll be a link to it below this. If you want to join that, that's a paying opportunity per month, but that's because there's a whole series of classes in there, and there's also editors that are editing things like your artist statement and your bios. There's a lot of personal attention that happens in there. So in the classroom that's online, that takes place, the group interaction takes place in a closed Facebook classroom. That's one group, one kind of community, a tribe that you're also part of, that those of you who are members now hearing this understand that, and that's why you're in there and you're staying in there. Those who aren't in there right now, you can try it out for a month if you'd like. Again, it's a paid situation because there are editors and teachers helping you with a variety of aspects of international recognition and raising money and all kinds of things. So So there's information on that in the link below, but I also want to just wish you all well in your studios. I want to wish you you continue to make art, that you continue to have the passion for making art and for sharing it. Sharing it, of course, is important. Having exhibitions is a must. And whether you're having exhibitions at galleries or nonprofit spaces, or you're creating apartment shows or pop-ups or collaborating with friends to create pop-ups, either way, sharing is enormously important, and so is the idea of a community that you can engage with, that you can be part of on a weekly or monthly basis. And as I mentioned in this talk, there are 3 ways really of getting into a community that I've mentioned today. One is creating your own locally, beginning with 2 or 3 artists that meet once a month in each other's studio and do crits. The other way is to look at your local nonprofits and begin attending exhibitions that they have. And these are alternative spaces, alternative galleries, things like that. Go to them. That's where also your tribe is. That's where you will learn about other artists and they will learn about you, and you'll feel part of what's happening right now in the art world. And the third way that I mentioned today, of course, is through the link that I'll attach below. That's the Praxis Center for Aesthetics. Some of you that are listening to this are already in there and feel the support. Other artists are commenting on other artists' work, questions, ideas. People are asking questions all the time in that group. It's an incredibly active group and a wonderful group of artists. So that's another way if you want to investigate that for a month or 2 or longer. I wish you all well in your studio practice. That's my live talk for today. And I want to thank you all for being the artists that you are, because without artists, you know, the world is not the same, right? Artists are, I believe, a kind of transformational entity in the world. It's not simply about making beautiful things or making things that are confronting. Art is about changing the world. It's about a message that has to get out there. It's important that it's exchanged. And so I think artists are enormously important people and aspects of how our world evolves and changes, as are so many other professions. But artists hold a very special place, because where art emanates from isn't research or science-based, it's personal, it's message-oriented, and it's almost always about a conversation, because there's a message in your art, most likely, that needs to be sent out, it needs to be received. And it's like that with most people's art. So again, I want to thank you for being an artist, for listening to this, and for doing what you're doing. If you have any questions, you can ask below. If you want to join my classroom and online group and tribe, please use the link as well. And whenever you're listening to this, have a wonderful day or evening.